Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nutritional Revolution podcast. We have a superstar guest for you guys today. We have Ruth Winder. She started cycling at age 15 and quickly began racing competitively, making the 2016 Olympic track cycling team for Team Pursuit and winning the 2019 National Road Race Champs and taking home the overall win for the Tour Down Under in 2020. No big deal, right? And in addition, Ruth has been coaching athletes since 2015 as a USAC level 3 coach. So thank you so much for joining us today, Ruth. So great to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So as many of our listeners know, we've been incorporating the 2 truths and a lie. So before Ruth gives us her whole backstory, we're going to get the 2 truths and a lie from her. So go ahead and share those with us, Ruth.
Sure. What I came up with. First one, my favorite vegetables are mushrooms. I have been stuck on a train in Belgium. And when I was little, I really wanted to be a firefighter.
Cool. Okay. My husband's a firefighter. I kind of feel like that one's true. I don't know if everybody loves mushrooms. I'm going to say your favorite veggie is not a mushroom, but don't tell me the answer. What do you think, Mia?
I was going to say the exact same thing because I do not like mushrooms. So.
That's interesting. And I'm like mushroom obsessed over here. I like eat different mushrooms all the time. Okay. So we will maybe learn that as we learn more about Ruth today, or we will reveal it at the end. So hang tight, listeners. But before we find out the answers to that, Ruth, why don't you give us a little bit of backstory? Take us back in time. How did you get interested in cycling?
Yeah, my parents actually both rode bikes, so it was pretty easy for me to get into it. My dad has always raced and ridden bikes since he was really little. And then I was actually born in England, from England. When we moved over to the US when I was about 7, my dad had previously given up racing and riding because my parents had me and my 5 siblings, so he just didn't have quite time for bikes anymore in his life. But we moved to California, and there's a really strong cycling community in Northern California. I mean, in pretty much all of California, but we were in the Bay Area, and he got really back into cycling, and my mom also picked it up. And I think one of 6, I was looking for something to do with mom and dad that was fun. So I ended up just kind of picking up bikes, and
that's awesome.
Took me to nationals when I was 15, and I ended up winning my first nationals race. And I just tumbled along from there, I feel like. And yeah, bikes have just been such an important part of my life since then.
Yeah. Amazing. I have to ask because I'm in the Bay Area. Where in the Bay Area were you guys?
I grew up in Lafayette.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's a little ways away from me, but yeah, I'm just north of the Golden Gate Bridge, and obviously California has a bunch of beautiful biking wherever you go, but yes, amazing. Okay. So parents were into cycling. That definitely helps get the ball rolling, get some intrigue there. You won your first nationals. What was that like? Was it a surprise? Did you feel like you were a pretty strong rider going into it compared to people around you, or did you have no idea?
I had no idea. It was honestly such a surprise. I remember still, like, I screamed so loud when I passed the finish line, and they showed it, like, it was in Bend, Oregon, and they showed it on the local news afterwards. A whole interview of me, and I was just so shocked. I remember exactly what happened when I came around the last corner, and the girl in front of me turned around to look who was behind her.
Oh my goodness.
I just sprinted as fast as I could, and I won, and I just squealed so loud, and I think made the news, this excited little girl. So it's a good memory.
That's awesome. And so after nationals, what happened kind of following that with the cycling career?
Yeah, I think from there I went to ride the Velodrome a lot. Actually, the track in San Jose that we had a really, and still has, a good junior program down there.
Awesome.
So I would go down there with my sister, and my mom and my dad would drive me down there once or twice a week and ride on the Velodrome, just kind of doing local rides and races around Northern California.
Awesome.
And yeah, kept doing that, and I guess a little bit noticed by the national team. Just through development camps that they had put on that I would go to. Well, they came to San Jose sometimes, and I would see them at the track there, and raced a little bit in Europe young, and tried some road racing over there, but they were really pushing for the track program when I was at that age. So
Mm-hmm.
I raced mostly on the track through probably like 2013. So I'd
Okay.
been mostly road before that. And then moved to Colorado Springs actually in 2014 because they have the Olympic Training Center down there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just trained there just for the track to race Team Pursuit with the team that was there. And then after 2016 Olympics and made that goal, I was like a little bit on a rocky relationship with cycling after that. I'm not sure what I wanted to do, but I ended up realizing that I did really love the sport, mostly because I saw this beautiful kit and I didn't have any money at all, but I wanted to spend like $300 or $400 on this beautiful flower kit that I'd seen. And I was like, okay, I know I really love bikes because I want to spend like few pennies on this kit. But during all that, I met my now husband, and I'd moved up to Boulder to live with him just after that, and then began racing the whole road racing scene in the US and got really back into road racing. And then from there, I went to Europe and raced on my first European team.
Wow.
I finished out the last couple of years of my career on a European team racing in Europe, and then just retired from the World Tour racing side of things in 2021. So,
awesome. That's amazing. Amazing. And so I know one of the kind of reasons we wanted to bring you on is because you shared an experience and story through your cycling career with regards to maybe I'll call it like nutrition, maybe like maybe struggles, but maybe you have a better like, you know, kind of figuring out the whole nutrition thing. And I think, or maybe just following the suggestions of your peers of what you should do with your nutrition, maybe not so much of a struggle, but like how that played into your performance, body functioning, things like that. And I would love for you to share that journey with us, kind of like where did that kind of start? And were you always kind of fine tuning nutrition, or was there ever a thought much about nutrition with regards to cycling, or when I forget who exactly, but someone was like, you're a climber, and then it was kind of like, well, lighter is faster when we're climbing. So can we, you know, tighten things up a little bit or bring the number on the scale down to increase that power to weight ratio? Was that kind of a new thought to your, like you changing nutrition to get a little bit lighter, or had that been something you've been exposed to, seeing people trying to do in your racing career?
Yeah, I would say definitely later in my career, I started to pay much more attention to nutrition. It's funny though, today, my parents have moved out of their house in California. They've happily, in my side at least, moved to Colorado, but with them, they brought like a bunch of my old stuff. And I was looking through some of this old stuff today, and I found this notebook where I like hand wrote all my training down. And one of the pages in this notebook dated like 2009 to 2011 or something like that. So a while ago now, but on one of these pages is like all of Stacy Sims' contact information. So like at some point really early in my career, like Stacy was brought to my attention, and like obviously keeping track of fuel and nutrition, and that's a lot that she talks about. So I know at some point like fuel was really talked about to me, but I don't have any memories of trying to lose weight or be a specific weight or worrying about weight in any sense. It was always, my earlier memories are like, you need to eat, you're on this group ride, like Ruth, I haven't seen you eat something. But I'm like, well, I'm going really hard, like how am I supposed to ride my bike really hard and put food in my face at the same time? Like it was more, I feel like, my memories from that point of view. It wasn't, and then racing on the track, a lot of it is just like being as powerful and as strong as possible. And I was one of the smaller ones on the team, and so I was always on this, every 3 hours you need to be eating protein, like we need to bulk you up. And I was always like, kind of like, good luck bulking me up, I'm just not built that way. I'm just like small, like my muscles aren't, I just don't bulk. I very much look like an endurance rider, not a bulk person. And it was only in 2017, after I'd done racing on the track and I had some really good success on the road in the US. I won a lot of races in the US from all different, like, you know, uphill sprints, like all different kinds of styles of racing. And then I joined this first European team over in, they were a Dutch team, and they said to me, oh, well, you're a climber. And I was like, oh, this is news to me. Like, I was a team Pursuita a year ago, and have been like a pretty punchy, I would have said all-rounder is a good term in cycling, like good at everything, right? And they were like, no, you're a climber. You got third place at Tour of California when it finished up a hill. And I was like, okay, sure. And they were, to me, like an amazing road cycling team. I just thought that I just joined like the best team in the world, and I needed to do what they told me to do and listen to them. And at one point in the middle of this, and they put me to work with a nutritionist or a dietitian with the team, and I was just doing what she said. And at one point I stopped getting my period. And to me, this was like, I'm like, oh my God, am I pregnant? Like, what is happening to my body?
Goodness,
like, I'd never heard any of this stigma, like, oh, if you don't have your period, then that means that you're lean enough and strong enough. Like, all that I read about now on the internet is like people that have this like internal thing that they feel proud that they didn't get that period.
Right.
And it's like, for me, I was shocked. I was just like, I immediately contacted people that I knew, which was one physiologist from the OTC
good
that I'd worked with, and also Stacey Sims, because I was like, let me contact the people that I know to contact.
Yes.
For me, I was just like, what is happening to my body if my body can't do the one thing that it's supposed to do with a female, which is like have my period every month? It's the thing that's always been constant since I started getting my period when I was younger. Then what is going on? So I jumped on it really, really quick to be like, what's happening? And every advice that I got was basically, you're under fueling, you're under nutritioning. But at that point, I think that I put it in my head that, oh, well, but I need to be smaller to be a better climber. I need like, I'm a climber and I need to impress this team. And anyway, I didn't end up staying on that team very long because I had a few conflicts with management. I think it's a great team. The team was Sunweb at the time. It's a well-known team, and it is a really good team for a lot of really good riders. But I just think for where I was in my life, it wasn't the best team for me. And I ended up leaving and joining Trek-Segafredo, which was the team that I was on for the last couple of years. And from there, my relationship with food and trying to be healthy with it has definitely been the most rocky since I was younger. So.
Okay. Wow. And I just have to like give you some serious kudos and thumbs up for like reacting the way you did to losing your menstrual cycle. I think like you're saying, a lot of the discussion, it seems like right now with these team sports or not, is that when a woman loses her cycle, it's kind of like, oh, like what a relief, I don't have to deal with this, or I'm lean enough to do my sport, or there's kind of these other I guess non-positive like thoughts about like your physiology and what's going on. It's not a concern sometimes, and it's more of like you're saying, like it's almost like looked up to in some
like
sport.
Badge of honor or something. Which I totally was naive to. I had no idea. I really didn't. And to be clear, like I have never been on any sort of hormonal birth control before. So my period had always been really regular. I think it can be harder for women that have been on hormonal birth control. Definitely. Maybe you're not getting your period for other reasons. But for me, it was very clear when I stopped getting my period. I was just like, okay, like what is happening? And then I started Googling and I started to work with a bunch of juniors, and I have come to learn that it's like really common for even young girls to not be getting their period and all of that. But at the time, like I had no idea. I have 3 sisters, and we've been really healthy in that way. And it was just not something that it had really ever been talked to me about. And my coaches had all been male, and I guess nobody ever really talked about it. I was just assumed it was normal to get periods. So then as soon as it went away, I was just like, okay, well, the normal thing is that I have my menstrual cycle monthly, and now it's not happening anymore. So what's going on? And maybe that's just kind of like the bubble that I grew up in, and of my area of sport was just that way. But now I'm learning that it's definitely not that way for a lot of endurance sport, and especially now maybe with more social media and more just like internet access. I don't know if it was.
Definitely. With that experience, did you, with kind of like the Googling at that time, I mean, was the primary changer, was it increased like training volume, or do you think was it like the number on the scale, your body weight went down, or energy intake went down, or what do you think were like the primary drivers of losing your menstrual cycle?
I think it was probably a combination of things. I just moved to the Netherlands, so it was my first kind of like move away from the US. At least I'd not been home for a long time. I felt like, but into a really cold area. And then I think it was probably what I was eating, when I was eating, and how much of it I was eating. I wouldn't even say that my body weight got that low. I think it was just, and when I say not got that low, like I didn't lose it, like I was at 54 kilos or something, and maybe I went down to 53, which a kilo to me, I was already pretty small at 54. So maybe it was enough just to make that difference. I'm not really sure. And I think that that's like, everybody's weight is different. It doesn't really mean anything to anybody other than me.
Yeah.
But I think it was more just about like when and what I was eating and like that. And I think it was just not enough calories, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel during that time, like, did you ever get periods of like noticeable low energy or like lack of motivation to train or any other kind of symptoms going on?
Definitely didn't have the season that year that I wanted to. And it's really hard to pinpoint to one specific thing. I think now in hindsight, I can see the periods of time where I've like become super controlling about my food or been living in a really hungry state, that I am a more anxious kind of human being. And that, because before I was like, well, maybe it's just because I moved to the Netherlands. It was a really cold winter. It was hard to train. Like the team and I weren't really vibing, like clicking, vibing. I keep saying vibing because I've been watching too much Love Island. I'm like, no vibes. We're not vibing.
Oh my goodness, that cracks me up because I also have been like binge watching Love Island. Oh man,
we're here for the vibes.
Yeah.
Like, no, I keep saying that word. I never said vibes until like a month ago. But yeah, like funny. Anyway, but the team and I just weren't getting on quite well, and so it was hard for me to like say, oh, it's because I wasn't eating enough and not getting my period. But I think it all kind of combined together into one, and now that I've had other periods where I've definitely slipped into this like controlling mindset. It's just the perfectionist in me. And I can see that I'm like, wow, my relationships have suffered, my health has suffered. And I like to use the word health, but for me, health is not just like physical health. Like I can be fit as hell, but not feel healthy, meaning my emotional and my menstrual cycle, my hormonal health. And there's like a lot for me that encompasses is health. And I could see that was suffering. Then too.
I think that you may bring up a wonderful point there. I was just checking in with one of my clients before we hopped on here, and he's not an endurance athlete. He's more into like bodybuilding, quite honestly, but he's like, just wants this like more muscle goal. And it's like, but how do you feel? Do you feel really good right now? And I think that's a big piece of it too. I mean, getting too lean or too heavy, like there's a sweet spot. I think that everybody's body wants to kind of be set at their own sweet spot based off of what demands you're putting on it. You mentioned kind of reaching out to some people when you noticed your menstrual cycle wasn't coming on schedule. What types of people did you reach out to, and what advice or suggestions did they give to you?
I reached out to Lindsay Hyman and Stacey Sims, but also my coach, Ben Day. He's been my coach for a long time, and he's been super open with talking to me about everything. And he would even have conversations with Stacey about how to adjust my training to get my energy balance back.
That's awesome.
He was honestly really great about it, and even thanked me for talking to him about it, because he coaches a lot of female. And just being able to have that conversation with more of them, I think. So yeah, that was cool to have his support. And I'm glad that I had a coach that I felt so comfortable talking.
Definitely.
He wasn't right away, because the team that I was on I had to be coached by one of their coaches, but I worked with them very soon after that team. But Stacey, honestly, she was really great. She had a number of phone calls with me, even like logged onto my Training Peaks where I upload all of my workouts basically, and she could see what I was putting out. And then not every day, but maybe like 2 days out of the week, she would just have me log the food that I was eating, and she was immediately like, you're really severely underfueling, and this is the problem. So the way she kind of helped me fix that was I would never train more than 2 days in a row. It was always 2 days and then a recovery day.
Awesome.
She was really supportive. She's like, I know it can feel like a lot to try and eat more. So try and focus more on like the time of day that you're eating rather than how much you're eating. And a lot of that was getting a good recovery right afterwards. Like that was something that I probably wasn't great at, but like making sure I get a good protein and carb mix right after.
Awesome.
And then eating another meal right after. Sometimes I would just be like, oh, I don't need a recovery because I'm going to eat a meal in half an hour or something like that. Or I had a really big recovery shake, so I don't need to eat my meal in half an hour. And she's like, nope, Ruth, you need to do both. You need to have both. You just burnt like 1,500 calories.
Yeah.
Metabolism is jacked. You need to eat both. And I'd be like, okay, I came to you because I wanted help. I want to make change. So I'm going to do it. Like, for me, it wasn't that hard. I just wanted to feel like I was doing the right thing. And when I was following the dietitian's plan before, I was like, thought that I was really doing the right thing. And even if that woman, who was a lovely woman, she'd be like, well, if you're hungry, eat more. I'm like, no, you told me to eat this much, so I'm going to eat this much. And if you're not hungry, then I'll just tough it out and just like be hungry when I go to bed. But it's like, because I'm really good at following a training plan, basically.
Yes. Well, I think many athletes in in a similar situation, right, is like I think when athletes can get to the level that you've gotten to, there's reasons for that, right? And they can be really good at following a plan and pushing through sensations of pain or maybe sensations of hunger, and sticking to the plan, because there's amazing qualities, right, of what can make up really successful athletes. And some of that too even can like push us maybe too far in the wrong direction because we're so good at following those rules. Right. So yeah, I think you bring up a great point. And I do see that in a lot of our athletes, the kind of, I call it like a type A personality, but like I'll give them a plan and they are really good at following it. They're really great, excellent at following it, which can be like could be the best type of client. But again, you have to be careful with it. Right. And I think keeping in communication with a client is always beneficial to see what's going on. And thanks to Stacey Sims for making that conversation just such a more regular thing and less maybe taboo topic for people to talk about too. And I think more and more people are becoming open with talking about that, and also it being an area that like we should be checking in on with our clients too, and what's going on with menstrual cycle and hormonal health and stuff like that. So I think that's great. You mentioned another person you reached out to, Lindsay Hyman.
Yeah, she was a physiologist at the Olympic Training Center that I worked with.
Awesome.
And I reached out to her a couple times, and I still occasionally reach out to her. She's a lovely person to have in my corner. She's someone that worked with me throughout the whole track program down there in Colorado Springs.
That's awesome. Was she under the same impression, like based off what you were telling her with regards to maybe like low energy availability? And
yeah, she was like, basically, you shouldn't be leaving the door without eating a minimum of 600 calories. Like she would give me a bit of a more detailed plan, kind of tailored to me, kind of looked at what I was doing as well.
Yeah.
And, me being me, I guess I like to have more than just one opinion and get that, but just confirm my own thoughts. Because I think, at that point, I was, how old was I already? Like 23 or something. Like I old enough to kind of know who I was and what I needed. And I think I was just kind of becoming to learn to be confident with that. And I think, like I'd said before, my brain was like, oh, I've joined this team, it's the best team, they're going to tell me the best thing for me. But I quickly learned that, like, no, I know the best thing for me, and I don't think this is it. So I knew to ask for help when it came.
I love that. I think that's great. And so you mentioned some of the changes that you made, getting that recovery in, getting a meal right away, following that recovery to how long, kind of following that process, doing 2 training days followed by a rest day before you kind of started seeing your cycle return more regularly?
Yeah, for me, it was quick. It was probably like 3 or 4 months, I would say. It was like the middle of the season. It wasn't that long, I think, because I was right on it so quickly. I was just pretty shocked by it. Since then, I think there's been periods of time where I've lost it again and it's come back, but I've been really aware of maybe why that's happening and everything, and had more tools, and maybe not freaked out quite so much about it. I think everyone should remember that no process is perfect, and that it's definitely in my sport a lot of power to weight problems. And I'm not going to say that like those thoughts of wanting to be lighter is faster thoughts. Like I've really had to battle that with stronger is faster, like quite a lot. And there's definitely been times where I've slipped back to that lighter is faster thought, and it's hard to not compare yourself to all your competitors and everyone around you and just want to be as lean as possible. Every time that happened, like I would try to just talk about it with my friends and my husband, just so they could be aware, because I found that if I didn't say things out loud, that they would just kind of fester inside me, and it would just I don't like the word issues, but like my struggles, my demons, like they would just get stronger unless I said them out loud. And I wouldn't like what I heard come from my mouth. So then I would try and fix it. And a lot of that was to do with underfueling and not eating properly. And again, when I come back to like, what do I truly believe is healthy, and what do I want to like put out into the world, and what do I want to show younger riders? And I am a coach to also younger riders, and I want what would I tell them, and how would I want them to feel in their sport? So every time I did kind of, if I missed a period for a month or for a bit of time, I was like, okay, this is not okay, like why is this happening, and try and look at it in a constructive, non-emotional way.
Yeah. That can be super challenging. Did you ever reach out to any like sports psychologists or anyone in that arena?
Yes, I've had a sports psychologist for the last couple of years, and she's amazing.
Amazing. Do you feel comfortable sharing her name at all?
Letitia Beta.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. If she's amazing, shout her out. I think it's always, go ahead.
I just would have a little hashtag like to myself, like, thank goodness for Letitia, like a little.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if you can find a good, sports psychiatrist, psychologist, that can help, I think finding that good fit for each person, I think is really important and helpful to that just overall toolbox of support. So yeah, I think, if you have a good one, share her name, shout it from the rooftops. I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And so kind of diving into a little bit more detail, maybe with the nutrition changes, kind of just sharing your experience. You mentioned doing a shake right away. Was it like a protein powder with, you said carbs as well? What was kind of like your mix of go-to products or foods that you liked?
I think recovery powder. I did. I'm not sponsored by anybody anymore, so I can like tell it to say anything. I use BioPro, I believe it was BioPro protein powder. And I want to say that it's been a little month. I would change my recipe around. Now I use the Scratch. There's a Scratch protein powder that I've been using.
But
I'm trying to think of like at that time. And I would always have a banana maple syrup. That was a big one. Put maple syrup in it. I would like frozen bananas in the summer, and I would make it like warm or at least room temperature. Protein powder goes a little bit funny if you like make it hot. So not a recommendation. Winter. So, and milk, that was it. Milk, a banana, maple syrup, protein powder, and I would have that, and then come back later and eat my whatever it is. I eat a lot of eggs on toast. I'm a big sourdough baker, so
yum.
Make a lot of my own bread.
Amazing. Have you ever tried any gluten-free sourdough, or like making any?
I have not, but I should, because I think I'm really lucky, but 3 of my siblings have really bad celiac disease.
Oh yeah.
Could be a nice person and make them some gluten-free stuff, but I am so far not that nice, and I just buy them from the store.
It is hard to find like a legit good gluten-free sourdough. Have your family members found any out of curiosity?
No, I don't think so, and I'm curious how it works, because I think I thought the fermentation part had to come from whatever was the gluten in the flour, but it could be a different bacteria. I don't know.
Interesting. There's one brand that's like somewhat decent. I don't know if you could share this with your sisters. It's called Seriously Bread. Have you heard of that one?
Maybe.
It's spelled SRSLY. We're not sponsored by anybody either, so we can shout out all the names we want. But that is one that is a gluten-free sourdough, and it's dense, like most gluten-free breads, but like it has a little bit of that sourdough taste. So like, especially if you toast it, it's like decent, but not the same as like a true sourdough. I'm celiac as well, so I went down that rabbit hole with you. But I love that the post-training protein shake too. I think that's a good mix, including some real food in there. And then I think, letting our listeners know too, it doesn't have to be just a bunch of berries or anything like that. It's like maple syrup is a-okay as a post-training, like nice high carb source to replenish muscle glycogen too after a workout. So like that makes it easy. I think that's great. The frozen bananas too is fantastic. One of the things I do something similar with my post training with a banana, and then I actually blend up like dry oats in my protein shake. I'm not sure if you've ever.
I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't taste it. It blends right in. Might thicken it up a little bit, but that's an easy way too to get in some, it's like liquid oatmeal, I guess, chocolate oatmeal. It's pretty decent. But I think, yeah, it is about getting that recovery in right away and getting protein-based sources in a quick way that's tolerable too. Did you find it all ever post-workout? Were you ever in the situation where you just didn't have an appetite post-workout?
Never. Even during
really?
10-day stage race, some people are like, oh, if it's been 5 days, I have to eat so much because we're racing so hot every day. I can't eat. I'm like, I'll eat your dinner. That's fine. I've just always had such a good appetite. My I think so. I mean, I have memories of like being out at the Cheesecake Factory as a child when the waitress like, you're never gonna eat that. I'm like, is this a challenge? Because I'm
That's great. I think I'm so curious about that from a physiology perspective with regards to, so many things. I'm so curious because it seems like there can be a large proportion of athletes that just have just like zero appetite after a race or a hard effort or something like a hard training session. And I'm very curious. I want to see some research in that area of like, what does that mean from a digestive perspective, but like a physiological health perspective of that training stress and being able to eat right after. I wonder so many things. I have so many questions, but I wonder like if that's a good thing, meaning like typically if you're hungry after, your body's responding to that training stress. And if your body can tolerate food and bring it in and has a desire for it, hopefully that means that your fight or flight, those stress hormones are coming down and you're able to shift quickly into that like rest and digest and recovery phase. I would think that your recovery would be maybe a bit more advanced than someone who can't.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, if you just think about food as fuel, if you're not fueling after your race, then your muscles are not going to recover as fast. Therefore, they're not going to grow as big. So, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but like the things that I've kind of tried to read up on and learn about, it's like, I think we get in our heads about wanting to be as lean as possible a lot of the time, and maybe that's not what they're trying to get after a race. Maybe their stomachs just purely can't handle it, these athletes maybe that you're talking about. But the longer that you wait without fuel in your body, your muscles are just going to break themselves down versus being able to put something straight to them so that they can build and be stronger later. You want that. So to me, what you're saying about like, oh, I wonder if athletes that can metabolize that food faster would maybe get stronger. Like, to me, it makes sense because again, food is supposed to be fuel and you can't build muscle really without it. And it is fascinating though. I've always had a good appetite, and that's like something else I've been told is, if your metabolism is just constantly going, then you're gonna burn stuff. But like if you restrict, and then your metabolic rate will basically become lower, but that doesn't necessarily, like, you'll just in theory need less calories because you're restricted so much, but that's because your body's not using its energy more efficiently, whereas maybe your metabolic rate is a lot higher, but you're able to kind of burn through everything that you eat because you spending more energy on building muscle versus just trying to like reduce everything.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I mean, if you're bringing in less energy, your body's going to try and survive one way or another. And if that means spending less energy heating you or making muscle or maybe, building up digestive enzymes, like it will, or bone going towards your, like kind of talking about low energy availability, right? Or making sex hormones. It's like your body will absolutely respond in a way to help you survive and slow down that resting metabolic rate, like you're saying, to accommodate for that maybe lack of energy coming in to meet that energy out. So I think you bring up a great point there. So with regards to the pre-training too, you mentioned the suggestion of like get 600 calories in you before you head out the door. What did that look like?
I think I was really big into, I still am. I eat a lot more oatmeal now than I ever have before in my life. I think it's because I moved up into 8,000 feet and it's cold a lot more of the day. So I feel just like having a hot bowl of something. But yogurt and cereal was a big go-to. And I didn't really look at the calories in cereal until all of this. And I was like, oh, you have to eat a lot of cornflakes to
Yes.
So sometimes I would either do some oats and some cornflakes, or I'd literally sit with my bowl of cereal, and that was normally like yogurt and peanut butter. And like if it was a long, hard training day, then I would add maple syrup or something a little bit more that way. And then I would eat half of my cereal, and then with a mug, I'd be like sitting there with a mug of extra cornflakes, so I didn't have to go back to the kitchen and then like dump my mug into my bowl when there was enough space again. Because I don't know, most people that are friends with me that I have a little bit of an addiction to cornflakes. I am gonna make cornflake frosted fish for dinner. Delicious.
I think I've definitely seen a recipe for that somewhere. It sounds pretty good. Is it the cornflake frosted? Yeah. What did you call it? Cornflake frosted fish?
Frosted fish.
That's cool. That sounds delicious. It kind of makes me think of like you could probably use Rice Krispie the same way, maybe not as delicious, but I love that. Cereal is one of the things we suggest to our athletes as well regularly. Rice Krispies, cornflakes, like you name it, it can be a great carb source, and most people can tolerate eating a good amount of it and not, feeling too overwhelmed or maybe too full. So I love that. I love that. The extra mug by the side and fill up your bowl of cornflakes. And so let's see, I want to dive into your kind of coaching experience too. So, retired from cycling, and then did you immediately get into coaching, or was that something were people asking you questions about training and it kind of evolved? Or
so I started coaching still when I was still racing. I was coaching, started like just the end of 2015, kind of 16. I started talking to someone, and then full-time 2016, I think. And that was a little bit just like, oh, I just went to the Olympics and now I like need to actually be making money somehow. Like I don't, as a athlete at the time, I think I made like $12,000 a year. Like I wasn't making any money, and that was from the national team, which was okay because I was living at the Olympic Training Center. Like I didn't have money to do anything, but like my expenses were covered by them because I lived there and I ate there, and I didn't have a car or anything, health insurance, stuff like that. So like I basically had no expenses, but I also didn't have anything to go and live on afterwards. And so I think that it really came up as a little bit of a motivation for that, a bit like, what can I do with my skills? I really like working with people. That's something I really enjoy. And the company I started working with did a lot of hands-on clinics. So I don't work for that company anymore, but it was a great place to kind of start. And from there, I've just continued to coach since then, and coached a range of different people. I now also work with Boulder Junior Cycling here, and we have about 40 kids in the high school group. There's like 250 in the whole program, but in high school, which is where I work with, there's about 40 of them, and it's just hands-on. We have practice twice a week, not the whole year round. We have a spring summer season and then kind of like a fall season. So we just finished with the fall cyclocross season, and spring and summer starts in, I think it's March, and it goes through till July. So that's really fun. So
that's great.
Yeah. And like I said, I still love racing or bikes and cycling in general, not even racing. Lots of them race, but some of them don't race, and it's fun to work with them as well.
That's great. So with the clients that you coach, you mentioned kind of a variety. Is it variety of like competitive levels or like sport types, like meaning you're working with people who are doing more road specific versus gravel versus mountain bike, or what is that like?
Yeah, I work with all of the different kinds, different ages, I guess, too. I have some that still, one guy still really loves the track racing, and he does that. Some younger kids, and kind of everybody in the middle, I guess. Definitely there's more of a lean towards gravel racing in the US. I'm actually doing some of that myself, and
awesome.
probably doing a bit more of it next year. But because of just the way that the scene is, that's kind of the events that my clients kind of look towards if they choose to race.
Yeah. It does seem like the gravel stuff is like, even in the last year, it's just like blown up. I feel like very popular. What kind of races are you going to be doing next year? What's your plan?
The plan is to keep racing for Trek, and I've actually rehired my coach back, so I feel like I'm back in. I had a year off with no coach. It was great, but I really love having a coach too, and I think I needed to prove to myself that I didn't need it, but now I choose it. And that's fun. And so I'll do there's a Lifetime Grand Prix, which is 6 gravel races, but they're adding one more, so that's 7 plus like a steamboat is a big one for Colorado, so that'll be fun.
That's awesome.
I think it's like 8 to 10 races or something I'll do next year. It's nice. It's like great. 1 or 2 a month during the summer, and not many of them are that far away. I'm used to traveling so far for it all to be not that far is nice.
That's awesome. That sounds great. Will you be doing Unbound?
Yes, I was supposed to do it this year, but I actually was super sick with COVID.
Oh, shoot.
So I missed it. Yeah, I got married just at the end of May this year.
Yeah. Oh, congratulations.
My wedding became a little bit of a spreader event. So.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Shoot.
No, it's just the spring, and I think it really exploded for a lot of people. Like everybody that hadn't had it yet pretty much got it this spring, and I think they didn't assist in that situation.
Oh man,
my husband though, he did not get it at all. We didn't isolate or anything. He's just, I don't know, COVID or something. Because I don't, maybe he won't be. It seems to affect everybody a little bit different. But anyway, I miss Unbound because of that. But I plan to be there this next year.
That's awesome. We I might be there, but I don't know if I'm going to be riding a bike. But if I'm there, I'll have to come say hi to you. I'll have to shoot you an email and see where you're at if I end up making my way there, and we'll have to connect and say hi, and maybe I'll cheer you on from the sidelines. Would you do the 100 or 3? What's your distance?
200 one, I think. To be perfectly honest, I am not excited about it. Like, it's something I'm looking forward to. These races are so long. I'm like, why do we have to race for so long? Like, the racing I've done before is brutal, but like track racing, my event was 4 minutes, and then road racing, it was like 3 to 5 hours depending on the event. Unbound was like, I don't know, 12 plus hours or something. Just it's like a long time. I'm gonna have some terrible saddle soles after this.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway. The scene, so you have to show up to the scene.
yes that you bring up a great point. Like how do you feel with regards to how your body performs and responds to these very short and fast race events, and now going to this like long, more like steady state, but like hard, consistent effort for hours on end? Like, what does your body think about that?
It's crazy. I think my body probably still prefers something in the middle, like the shorter kind of events for sure. But I think the biggest thing is like the recovery from these things are huge. I say only racing once or twice a month, but like the toll is so much bigger. Recovering from a 12-hour event is massive. It can take weeks, so I think that's something that everybody needs to be watching out for when they look at these events. If you try and smack your calendar too full, there's no way you won't be super tired by the end of the year. So I used to race like 50 times a year, and now I'm like, wow, 10 races feels like a lot, but when they're all like really long, it's goodness, you have to manage your fatigue basically that way. It just can build, like, if you think about a big training plan, if you just did 12 hours one day, you need 10 days to recover versus doing 3 hours for 4 days in a row. You probably would only need 3 days to recover. That is wild to think about it like that. Do you like talking about a 12-hour race? What are you still doing the protein shake after, or does that look different for 12 hours versus like a standard training day recovery? Should be doing the protein drink afterwards. To be honest, I probably have a beer first. It depends on if somebody passes me these days. Oh man. Yeah. But granted too, probably with hopefully, right, you're fueling pretty regularly during this 12-hour.
Yeah. What are your go-to during fuel products or hydration products that you use?
I love to actually eat food on the bike too. It's harder in gravel racing than I thought it would be. So I've done more gels this year than I probably normally have, but like I'll make myself little sandwiches, or some bars can be really hard to chew and get down. Like that's why I like kind of really soft breaded sandwiches or easy.
Yeah.
It's like brioche bread, something that's rich and just goes down really easily. Definitely gels, chews. If I didn't feel like buying anything, then I just get Haribo. It's really cheap.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that works really well too. Honestly, like cookies, Oreos can be great. Like I don't need to be fancy. I bake a lot when I'm at home. So if I've baked something, then I'll bring cookies or banana bread or something like that as well.
That's awesome.
Anything that'll get me to eat, because like in these long events, if you get behind in the first 2 hours, like good luck to you, because it's not going to be a fun time.
Yes. I think you bring up a fantastic point. There's like, yeah, you want to find and bring things that you're going to want to eat. Do you ever run into that, like just like overwhelming, like I think I've had too much like Haribo bears or something, like, or it's like too much sweetness where you want something, I don't know, savory, or do you just, you mix it up enough where you don't run into that issue with the long duration stuff?
I'm still kind of learning, because this is my first year doing such long racing. Like before, if my races were 3 to 4 hours, then I would be okay. And they were just so intense that a lot of the times I was just eating gels or sugary stuff. If I did have a longer race, sometimes, you could have like a peanut butter and jelly, which is a little bit savory, still a bit sweet. And I think it's just important, if you go to get something savory, that you're still making sure that it's got good carbs in it and maybe doesn't have too much fat in it, because that can just not help with digestion. But everybody's a little bit different. Like I know some people that just cannot eat solid food on their bike, and they have like 20 gels in their pockets. And I'm like, I can't do that. I just don't feel like my stomach knows how to deal with it. So I still get starving, because in like a one gel is like 100 calories. But then if I eat like a Cliff bar or half a Cliff bar, that's like at least 150 plus in one of those. So for me, I just like solid food. I think I get more in. I think it tastes better.
Yes, definitely.
I think, but maybe at the end of the race, I like a bag of chips or something. I'm not gonna like a piece of cake, but during a race, I'm not as concerned about like sweet and savory.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, part of that is having that variety too, and having those different sources that satiate you a bit, and it's not the simple same stuff, and gives you different flavors, like you're saying, to get you to eat different things. And they all contain a lot more micronutrients than your standard gel or something like that as well, right? So that might be why you can eat food right away after you finish, because your body's used to just digesting regular real food the whole time anyways. So I mean, that is, I think that's a fantastic thing to come out of a hard effort with. So I want to be mindful of your time here. So where can people find you, follow you, work with you as an athlete? Where would they go to look?
Yeah, probably my Instagram. I'm not really active on many other platforms, but that's just Ruth Winder 8. So just my the number 8 because of my 6 siblings plus my parents. That's the 8 Winders. So
cute.
Ruth Winder 8 on my Instagram. I mean, if you're interested in hiring me as a coach, probably the best way is just to send me a message on Instagram. Although I did learn that I got a lot of missed messages, like somehow in the freaking other department of Instagram. But I think I figured it out now. So I'll
nice. Yeah.
Me. But yeah, that's just me, just on Instagram.
Perfect. Awesome. And then before we finish up here, 2 truths and a lie. You said your favorite veggies were mushrooms. You've been stuck on a train in Belgium, and you wanted to be a firefighter when you were little. Nia and I said mushrooms was not your favorite veggie. What was the lie?
I have never wanted to be a firefighter.
Really? Oh, oh man, my husband's going to be bummed, but it's okay.
Yeah, even when I was little, I insisted that people call me mushroom, because it was my favorite food. I love mushrooms so much. And no lies, I'm realizing now it was in the Netherlands, not in Belgium, but I was coming from Amsterdam to Sittard, and there's this there's a train station in the middle where the train splits in half, and one side of the train continued to Sittard and the other side of the train went to the train yard. And I was in the wrong side of the train, and I had to basically call the equivalent of 911 in the Netherlands for someone to come and get me off the train in the train yard.
Oh my gosh. That's an interesting system setup. I wonder if they do any like subway stuff like that too in New York, where one half of it just like disappears.
Well, someone came to rescue me and they were like, did you not hear the announcer? And I was like, clearly I heard him, and I decided to stay on the train that didn't go where I wanted to go. Thank you very much. Laughing so much anyway.
Oh, shoot.
When I was little, I really wanted to be a jockey. I've never been interested in
cool. Yeah, that's cool. What's your favorite go-to mushroom?
I'm not particular, whichever one. Just eat a lot of creminis because they're popular in the grocery store. But 1 year for my birthday, I got 3 grow your own mushroom kits because everybody knew how much I loved them. So I don't know, the red oysters at one point. They were delicious.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been messing around with different mushrooms at the grocery store lately. The place I go has like, I used to do that. I would go to creminis because they were just available and it seemed like the only one. And then the grocery store I go to now, they have like oyster mushrooms and shiitake mushrooms. And I mean, all these ones, I don't even remember names, but each week when I go grocery shopping, I pick a different one now and they're all so good. It's like, they're so good. So, and probably all, contain different micronutrients, but this has been an amazing podcast, Ruth. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know our listeners are going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, thank you.